Good morning, students. In this class, we will learn about index properties of soil. The test carried out in order to classify a soil are termed as classification test. The numerical results obtained on the basis of such test are termed as index properties of soil. The index properties of soils can be divided into two categories, namely soil grain properties. Number 2 is soil aggregate properties. To classify a soil, we have to do some classification test, and the numerical result obtained from that test is called index properties of the soil. And the index properties of the soil can be divided into soil grain properties and soil aggregate properties. Soil grain properties are those properties which are dependent on the individual grains of the soil and are independent of the manner of soil formation. For example, mineralogical composition, specific gravity of solid, size and shape of the grains. Soil aggregate properties. Soil aggregate properties are those properties which are dependent on the soil mass as a whole and thus represent the collective behavior of a soil. Now let us discuss grain shape. The shape of soil grains is a useful soil grain property in the case of coarse grained soil, where it is important in influencing the engineering behavior of the soils. The grain shapes are bulky shape grains, flaky or plate shaped grains, and needle shaped grains. Bulky grains are soil grains where all the dimensions of a grain are more or less the same. These are characteristics of sand and gravel soil. Flaky grains or plate shaped grains are the ones in which one dimension of grain, namely its thickness, bears no relationship with the other two lateral dimensions, which are much. Needle shaped grains are the grains in which one dimension of the grain is fully developed and is much larger than the other two. Now we will learn about grain size distribution of soil. Basically, the grain size of a soil is classified into two categories: coarse grained soil and fine grained soil. Coarse grained soil are those soil in which 50% or more retained on 75 micron sieve, or we can say 0.075 mm sieve. अब ये समझना है कि एक्चुअल में सीव होता क्या है, तो इसको इस तरह से समझ सकते हैं। ये एक वायर मेश है जिसको इस तरीके से किया गया स्क्वायर शेप में या आप सर्कुलर शेप में इस तरीके से आप बना सकते हैं। तो एक्चुअल में 0.075 mm क्या है? दिस डायमेंशन इज 0.075 mm. यही जो ओपनिंग है वही इसका सीप का साइज बताता है. ये जो ओपनिंग देख रहे हैं स्क्वायर शेप्ड ओपनिंग, इसका डायमेंशन 0.075 mm सीप कहलाएगा. If the soil passes from this opening, then it is fine grain. If it is retained on this, then it is coarse grain soil. If 50% or more passes through 75 micron sieve, then it is fine grain soil. For grain size distribution of coarse grain soil, we use sieve analysis, whereas fine grain soils are analyzed by the hydrometer or pipette method.